My name is Ricky James Martin. I live in the state of Oregon. I'm 60 years old, soon to be 61. And my upbringing was from Southside Chicago in a household that was Southerners. So I'm a Chicago hillbilly by birth. And I've lived in Illinois, Kansas, Arizona, and here the longest, since 1986, and the VA transferred me everywhere. So I'm retired now. I love listening to music, dancing. I like to run. I used to run a lot. I love to hunt, fish. Pretty active. Starting to hike quite a bit now. So I'm enjoying my activities are really expanding now. My professional career started in 1977 as a kinesiotherapist for the VA, Department of Veterans Affairs. And I managed several types of clinics, cardiac rehab. I taught handicapped veterans to drive again. I worked in basically physical fitness clinics and rehabilitation clinics most of my life. I transferred to the, I did my internship at the 4 VAs in Chicago. And I transferred, well, I went from my internship to Kansas, Topeka, Kansas. So I spent 6 years of my career there, and then I went to Phoenix, Arizona, spent 4 years. I moved here in '86 and spent the remainder of my 35 years for the government here at the White City VA, where about, when I was in my late 40s, I changed over and became a hospital administrator, whereby I was in charge of prosthetics, rehabilitation medicine, podiatry nursing, physiatry, and in-house voc rehab, and the Native American program. The Native American culture, I was adopted when I was in my early 20s in Kansas, and I didn't really understand what that meant. I didn't know a family was adopting me until many years later, actually. And it's a very natural process for me and my spirituality. It makes sense to me. It's very enlightening to me to be a part of that. Everything is with regards to Mother Earth. We don't make judgments. I'm involved now as a volunteer at the VA in the Native American program twice a week at the sweat lodges and talking circle. And you know, we're trying to help veterans reintegrate, especially these young guys coming back, which are going through a lot of conflicts within themselves and no jobs to come back to and things of that nature. And the thing that's really, we hear quite a bit is that in our culture we listen. And when you sit in a meeting with us, when you have the floor, there's no interruption, even if it's way longer than we want to listen. It's just the way we are. The first time I realized my health was a concern was while I was in management. I was in my 40s. I was an avid runner, weightlifter, Aikidoist. I was on the go constantly, and in upper management at the VA, you wear several hats without help. And as I started taking on programs, my director would invite me up to a meeting, and I'd walk into a room full of all the other managers, and pretty soon I'm asked to look at, say, prosthetics was the first one, and it was a total disaster. And I started noticing in my early, like 53 years of age, that I wasn't going to the gym. I had quit Aikido. I just couldn't fit it in. I was working 60 to 80 hours a week. I slept at the VA twice. I should have never slept there. I know that the heat goes off at 10:30 at night. I should have never known that. Just to try to make things work, and the workload was tremendous. And I started gaining weight. My breathing was affected. My knee was hurting all the time. I was having ulcers. Towards the last 3 years of I retired at 57. At 54, 55, somewhere in there, I've developed atrial fib. I had a failed cardiac ablation. At 56 or 55 I was. And when I retired in 57, last day of December 2011, I was 57. I tried to walk and tried to exercise, and I was really upset with myself, and because I remember I had this memory of who I was, And now this picture has really changed, and I couldn't even hardly walk up a hill. I couldn't walk up my driveway when I moved here 2 years ago. In June of 2012, I went and saw an acupuncturist just because I remember working with one years ago with certain issues. And I said, and he, the interviews, I just want to feel better again. I want to start feeling better. And they take a 3-level pulse on both arms, and then they look at your tongue. And I know the gentleman from working with him before, and he looked at his piece of paper, and he didn't write anything down. And he just had this sullen look about him. I'm very visual with this. And he looked back and said, I want to do it all again. And he did it all again. And he just looked at his paper for a minute. He looked at me and he said, I've never told this to anybody. I can't find a life force on you. I don't know how you're doing this. And here's a man that's getting ready towards the end of his career. He's been doing this for 30 years or more. And he said, so what do you want to do about that? And I said, well, I could die, I guess, or I could make a different choice. And I remember saying to him that I want to live. We started seeing each other twice a week, and about 8 months later, he said, it's time now. I said, time for what? And he said, well, it's time for you to go off your ulcer medication. I was on medication for my ulcer, my heart, my lungs. I would panic if I started to leave the house without my inhaler. My knee was killing me. Every step, I couldn't walk downstairs without, everything had to be on the left leg. And so I walked one stair at a time always. I was, and he pointed out, he says, yeah, your major things are dying. Your lungs, your digestive, and your heart. You've said goodbye. I came from a family with an alcoholic father and a very violent and chaotic household. And so, actually, I was a little heavy as a youth, and that was supposedly a good thing, because that showed that my dad made enough money to feed his father, or feed his children. And so my background and my my upbringing and everything, and my culture, even the Native American culture, really didn't support a person that was exercising. I mean, when I was I played a lot of sports, and I was one of those late bloomers. I kept getting better as I got older. I didn't peak and then kind of level out. And in my 20s, I was, when any of the adults at work or anything would have a game, I'd be the first picked for a team and stuff like that. And I played a lot of football in high school and stuff like that, and a lot of basketball, and ran in the off time, did a lot of martial arts, and it was just different from my family. So I was unique that way. Nobody was doing any exercise. And then the cultural thing is most of my elders, and not most, but some of the elders, and quite a few of the natives that I practice with are not in very good health. They don't eat a good diet, and they smoke and things like that. None of them that I know of run or do any exercise. So I was kind of a little bit different in that respect. An incident or something that made me do something about my health would be the combination of incidents. I just felt lousy every day. I'll tell you one thing that really stuck out. I bought a Christmas tree. I always buy a live Christmas tree. I try to always buy a live Christmas tree, and I had 37 acres up in the woods, and I would plant it. It took me 3 days after December of 2012 to plant one tree. That's how hard it was on me. And I just looked back at that tree and I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Trying to plant that tree was one of the most energy-robbing things I had experienced in a long time. I mean, it was, it was a 6 or 7 foot tree, and it had a good base to it. But I remember, in my 40s, picking the thing up and walking in the house and thinking, okay, what else am I going to do today? And I'm trying to drag this just up a little slope, and I'm stopping every 2 or 3 feet. And one time I sat down on the wet grass, just looking around like, okay, who's going to come help you? Do you want to change your location or anything like that? And it's that was fairly significant. I'll be honest with you. It was like, geez, dude, this can't be that heavy. Planting that tree or the difficulty planting that tree made me think that I wasn't going to live very long. And actually, when I retired, and I thought I had 3 more years. And so I wanted to do some stuff for my family. So one of the first things I did is bought my mom a brand new car. And then I did a lot of stuff for my sister and brother-in-law and the kids, my niece and nephew. And this was just my way of starting to say goodbye. I didn't think I was going to be around this long. My activities with my family, I have a nephew that's just amazing athletic, and when he was a little guy, we used to play catch and stuff, and as he's 15 now, so when this all was starting to go down, he was in his 8, 9, 10, he was playing Little League, and I couldn't even play catch with him. We'd go in the yard and we'd throw the ball a few times and I'd be worn out. And my niece liked to take the dogs for a walk, and I'd go about halfway down the block and stop, and everybody's, "Oh, Uncle Ricky, we'll wait on you, no problem." And I'm like, inside my head was this message that this is ridiculous. This is insane to be this out of shape. And but I couldn't do it. And I'm taking 2 puffs of Albertol, before you can go on a simple little walk. The first time I saw a doctor about my health was after a nurse at the VA. I've been a volunteer driver even when I was working there. I drove for the Native American program on weekends and stuff to go to other powwows or ceremonial events and things like that. And you have to have a little mini physical. And she said, "Well, you're an atrial flutter or atrial fib or both. You're going back and forth." And I was probably about 55 when she told me that, and I didn't do anything about it. And then I started trying, as I was just trying to do a little stuff, I'd go to walk up a hill, and my physicality would just wash out. It was the weirdest feeling I ever had. So the first time I saw a doctor about my health I was about 56, and I saw my own personal doctor, and he said, "Oh yeah, absolutely, you're an atrial fib. I want to refer you to the cardiologist," and we went there, and then they wanted me to have cardiac ablation, and so we tried that, and it failed, and it lasted about 2 or 3 months. I don't ever really feel that, even when it was a normal rhythm, that I was doing very well. Just still didn't, just didn't wake up very well. I didn't sleep good for years, and so it was probably when I was 56, the first time I saw a doctor. And the thing was always, "We're going to give you some medication, and I want you to take this, and don't take so much of that, what you're taking already." When my ablation failed, cardiologist wouldn't talk to me. I could only talk to his PA, and he said, "The doctor wants to put you on these cardiac rhythm medications." So I looked all those up, and first off, you have to have a special classification because they're so detrimental to the body. And so I called him back. I said, "Well, give me a few days to think about it." And I called him back, and I said, "I already have asthma. Is he trying to kill me quicker or what?" "Well, I can't talk to you about that." And I said, "Well, I want to talk to him." He said, "Well, he doesn't want to talk to you. He's unavailable." I'm like, "Unavailable, but you want to try to give me a drug that's, every one of these drugs damage your lungs. It's just, boom, it damages your lungs." So, and looking online, every time I looked, testimonials or anything like that online, the wife would say, "Well, my husband's heart got better, but his lungs went off, and he died with a tube and a tank following him everywhere," or vice versa. It was wife or husband talking to us about their mate. And I said, "I'm not doing that." Well, that was one of those times where I said, you're going down the tubes, dude. I had retired, and and I couldn't do anything anymore physically, and so the thoughts of my future were very dismal. I really, I bought a car for my mom. Well, she wanted it in the garage, and my sister and brother-in-law had a full 2-car garage because they were salespeople on the road, and their products were in there. So I said, "Okay, I'll build you a shed." It took me 10 days to build a simple shed, and I couldn't even take a bundle of shingles up 8 steps on a ladder. That was nothing in the old days. I mean, put 2 on, I'll be fine. It was, it just was insane. And I really just, I never said anything to my family. My sister finally heard this year that that's where I was going, and now I don't feel that way at all. My experience with drugs started, prescription drugs started in the 90s. Went through a divorce, and the stress must have threw I had some allergies, but now all of a sudden I developed asthma. And so I started taking asthma medications, a pill a day, and I don't even know what it is. And I carried albuterol. And so my life was, if I went for a run or anything, I had 2 puffs of albuterol. That was just a normal. I never even thought twice about it. And so that started in the mid-90s. And then in the around 2003 or 4, maybe 2002, I started having gastric pains, unbelievable. My personal physician put me on ulcer medication, a suppressor of some type, and so that I added that to my equation, and then whatever the medical equivalent is to red rice yeast, what they sent me a prescription home with that, which I never filled, and then the aspirin every day. I was taking a big boy aspirin, 325, I think, or whatever the large dose is, and sometimes 2 a day, just thinking that would help. I don't know why, but I took an aspirin. So I really didn't have a whole list, maybe 4 or 5, but I'm a guy that never had anything before. So, and then, just a part of living that way was, a regime. And so it was so enlightening when the acupuncturist said, it's time for you to go off of this. And I went off of that, and, I've here up until now, well, now I take nothing, not even aspirin. And 2 of those things I was taking, I quit taking them, the albuterol and the aspirin. I quit taking about 3 months ago. And so I was taking all red rice yeast still and all that stuff, but I quit everything about 2-3 months ago, to where I wasn't taking anything. If I ever forgot to take the drugs I was used to taking, I would be anxious. If I didn't have that inhaler in my pocket, I would be anxious the whole day. I knew 2 people at work that carried them, and I would call and say, in case I need an inhaler, are you here today? And they'd be like, yeah, sure. I didn't really notice anything physically. Maybe the heartburn was, if I didn't take that, I just could barely eat that day. Not that I was eating anything decent either, so everything was fast food, and run at the cafeteria and get a cheeseburger and eat it as I was going to that next disaster meeting. The way I came to Dr. Gallow's program is through dating his mother. In the first couple dates, I was very open about where I was with my health and everything, and I noticed going out to dinner that she ate a certain type of food, and she talked about the program, and then she told me about what happened to her, and I was like, well, that's kind of interesting. She never spoke about it, and then all of a sudden one day she said, you might want to look into getting somebody other opinion about your knee, because I was contemplating having knee surgery either this year or next year. I had a medial meniscectomy in my 20s, and I just was tired of it, and total knee was on my mind. I was tired of the pain. If I really thought about it, every step was about a 6 to 7, and it was limiting me, and so I was convinced I was going to get a total knee, so she knew that. And anyway, but there was never any, you need to change or you need to anything like that. There was never any assertive thing, but just watching and listening. And I thought, well, I'm on a path of health. Why not give it a try? I tried veganism last year, and my internals just always hurt. In fact, my private physician, my personal physician, thought he said, well, you might want to look at removing your gallbladder. It's not really needed. And every time a doctor says something like that, I'm like, I don't say anything to him, but I'm like, okay, God put it there for no reason whatsoever, right? The Creator put it there because it's just, he had one extra and it's going to start putting in humans, right? I don't get that mentality. I don't get that. And as Melanie started talking about the effects of what the changed diet and what certain foods were doing to us with a leaky gut and things, I was really interested. And and right before I went to Ireland, I started trying it, and that was in March of this year, mid-March. And I went to Ireland, and that was a disaster trying to do that with all. I mean, potatoes is a national sacred food for them and stuff like that, and so that was somewhat really hard, and I was starving the whole time I was on that trip. But anyway, so that's really how I got started into it. I heard about Dr. Gallant's program and started making changes 5 months ago. I'm a questioning person. I like doing research. I wanted to read stuff first. I was I was hesitant to get started. Yes, I was very hesitant. I was like everybody else. What I was eating was really pretty healthy, I thought. So yeah, I was hesitant. My biggest question was, where did this research come from? Absolutely above everything else, the question in my mind about Dr. Gallant's program was research. Where is this research from? How did this get started? Who says what? Who's doing what? Where is something I can read more and stuff? So that was my big question mark, I guess, about starting. I would say it was about a month after I started Dr. Gallant's program that I started really paying attention to just a general feeling difference. I really had a struggle changing my diet. I really struggled with it. But I want to say within a month, I started feeling like, oh, you're doing this a little easier. And there's not that systematic where I could do 10 push-ups and now I could do 12 or anything like that. I can't say that. But I was trying to go up and down this hill and try to walk a mile to 2 every other day. And all of a sudden it's like, I can go up this hill much easier. And I started doing it about 2 days in a row and taking a day off. So I noticed that in about 30 days, I started feeling things were physically easier for me after starting the program. I got 3 times that come to my mind that were things that said to me, you are really changed since you started this program. And I'm building a shop, and I started going up and down scaffolding without one ladder rung at a time. In fact, I jumped off one day and went, oh, you're okay. And this was within a week or two of all these things happening. I played catch with my nephew his dad was pitching to him, and I was in the outfit, and I was shagging balls all the way back to the fence. I was running and throwing them. I looked at my sis and I said, I wasn't able to do this last year, because we do it every year. That's her Mother's Day gift. My sister's Mother's Day gift is to go play ball. And then the third thing that happened just a few weeks after that was I ran. I ran the first time in about 9 years. I got a call in late June from Melanie, and she said, I'm going to be doing the July 4th 5K at Eagle Point. Are you up for that? And she goes, you can walk and run, and there's people with strollers. And she said, strollers. I'm like, you're kidding me. I am not walking with a stroller or anybody near that level. So I went out that day, and it was really too hot to run, but I went out and ran. My first time I ran a mile and a quarter. I had 4 days to get ready for this. It's a 5K, a little over 3 miles. And so I had 3 training days. Actually, I had only 3 training days. And so I ran a mile and a quarter. Next time, and took a day off and ran a mile and a half. Took a day off and ran almost a full mile and 3/4, and then I walked another half. And I said, okay, you can do this. And then I did the July 4th 5K, and I ran almost a whole 3 miles. I stopped and walked 3 times, maybe 100 to 150 yards each time. I mean, I trotted like a snail, but I had big people in front of me that I was zeroing in, and I'm going to pass you, and I'm going to pass you, and that's just the way it went. So those all happened within. Those were like really major, significant things that happened within a few weeks of each other, and I knew I was on a total different course. after I ran especially. My energy has changed tremendously. Up until, I would say, 3 months ago, I couldn't sleep a full night. I slept in this recliner chair over here, part of every night. And if I got 6 hours of fairly decent sleep, I was amazed. So my sleeps were 5 hours, and they were usually an hour, and I'd get up. My arms were numb most of the time, painfully numb, burning numb, up until about 3 months ago, and they wouldn't hurt. I'd come sit up, and if I could sit up, the pain would go away. So I'd sleep in that chair at least probably about an hour to two every night, and then go back to bed, propped up on 3 pillows. I'd get up about 5 or 6 nights of sleep every night, whether my arms were hurting or not, to go to the restroom. That significantly changed. I get up once now. Sometimes I don't get up at all. I sleep 7 hours now. I never sleep in this chair anymore. I sleep with 1 pillow. My two fingers on each hand sometimes burn. Last night they didn't burn at all. That's amazing energy change. I didn't know how tired I was all the time. I'd fall asleep in the middle of the day. I'd fall asleep with company. I'd fall asleep doing things, and I didn't realize how tired I was. Now I'm wide awake all the time now during the day, and so my energy's gone from, I don't know, 3 to 4 to 9, 10. It's getting better too. So, it's amazing. My sleep is just amazing to me. I sleep a whole night. I sleep 7 hours. I haven't slept 7 hours. I cannot remember the last time I slept 7 hours. Maybe in my 40s. I'm 60, almost 61, and so well over 10 years that I have never had a 7-hour sleep. I mean, I'll take a nap during the day because I just pass out basically now that I realize what was going on. It was dangerous sometimes driving. I'd be tired, really tired during the middle of the day. And now I'm vibrant. I wake up really refreshed. Sleep is just amazing, and it's amazing my clarity is changed with having a good night's sleep. I can tell. It just seems I'm not foggy with thinking about stuff. I'm a real math person. I mean, if I go to the counter and I get a cart full of items, I'm pretty much within $1. And that was foggy. That was tough before. Now it's like, boom, it's back there, and stuff like that. My feeling things, or my dexterity is back there. I'm thinking about trying to play the guitar again. I'm definitely looking into going back to Aikido. Percentage-wise, my sleep was about a 30% out of 100, and now I'm saying I'm 80, 90. Well, I want to say I'm 90%. I don't know how much better I could be in terms of my sleep. My energy in these last 3 months has more than doubled. I say it was probably 30%. I'm 90%, maybe 100 some days right now. I'm a 40-year-old in my mind again. I'm 30 pounds lighter just in 3 months, and this is how I was when I was in my 40s, and it's nothing for me to think about, well, I got to get this done today and that done today and work on the shop, which is out in the sun, and the guy that's working me has to go home in 4 hours. He's tired, and I'm there another hour, and then I got to work with the dogs, and I go to clean the pool, and then I got to go dancing and late night here, and got to get my 7 hours though. My pain level has changed tremendously. My pain level before the last 3 months was, I was still thinking, even though I was on that diet for about a month, I was still thinking, yeah, you might still need a knee operation. I absolutely have removed that from my thought pattern. I will not get a knee surgery now. I'm 100% on my knee. I have a little issue with tightness, but that's because I was limiting my range of motion because of pain. And so I'm stretching. In the sweat lodge, you're on your knees sometimes. I have certain responsibilities in there that put me on my knees, and it was very painful. And I had I would take 2 towels and just put underneath my knee. And now I was on the ground the last time in the sweat lodge, and I was moving around. The elders are talking about how much I've changed. They call me a shadow of what I used to be, and so that's my knee alone is a tremendous amount of pain difference. Being able to sleep without your arms going into this tremendous burning. I would say if there was a scale of 0 to 10, there was sometimes it was a 12. It was amazing that I didn't cry out in pain. And I'd walk this hall in my house so many times and sit, and it wouldn't go away. For one, I kept thinking I'm going to have everlasting neurological damage. I'm never going to be able to hardly feel anything. I'll never play guitar again. I'll never. I used to have a washout feeling when I would even just walk up this hill. That's my driveway, which I'm guessing my driveway is about an 8% grade, the way it is at the top and stuff. Now I run almost the whole thing as I start off. That's my warm-up to run up this hill. My pain before in my knee was a 10 or plus. My arm pain was a 10 or plus. It's not a pain, but that washout feeling was a constant anxiety of, if I was wanting to go on a hike with somebody or something like that, it'd be what am I going to do? I carried that albuterol. Like, I don't carry an albuterol. I got extra pocket space now. It's, so things were a 10 plus, and now they're a 0. My lung function before the program was extreme limiting to me, extremely limiting and extremely anxiety driving. I even remember going to some simple dances. I like to go out at night, listen to music, and go and have a simple dance. But I remember taking a hit just so I wouldn't have any anxiety. I couldn't laugh without embarrassment because I was just doing this little wheezing whistle with a laugh, and so and that was embarrassing to me. And now I don't even carry it. When I started out, it was really tough. I kept thinking, I'm not going to be able to do this. No way. How is what I've been eating and what's been on the commercials and what my family started me, how is this so wrong? The food, what I started, my mental concept of where I was when I started was completely different than I am now. I was questioning everything. Well, I got to ask somebody about this. And then I would say and go, they already got the answer. There's a million people before you ask that question. I read Dr. Gallo's little book. That was very helpful. And then I just kept pushing myself. I kept saying, you know what? You're dating a beautiful person now that's telling you about traumatic events that change because of this. Pay attention, dude. Don't shrug this off. This way of eating has become very easy to maintain. It's a little tricky if you're on the run and you haven't prepared something. But you still can kind of dig in and find food. You can't stop at a quick shop anymore. I mean, there's nothing there except water. And like I went on a motorcycle trip, 8-day motorcycle trip, and you didn't know. I had no idea I'm going to be in small towns and stuff, but it was easy to say, can I just have a hamburger patty with some eggs and some vegetables in them, and kind of help them outline it. And I remember at one little place out in the desert, some station it was called, and going in there to eat, and I had a salad and some eggs and a hamburger patty, and she said, what kind of dressing? And I said, I'd just take, after hearing what she told the next person over, I said, how about just mustard? And I remember her looking at me and going, I've never heard that one before. And I was very happy with mustard. It was, so I was able to have something like, on my salad and stuff, and it was just putting, and the other thing people watch, I throw everything together, and it's on one plate. I'm eating the salad with the meat, and every morning I ordered a vegetarian omelet, and without the cheese, and without anything like bread or anything like that, and I had a hamburger patty. It was easy. That was really hard in the middle of this. It was really hard to be vigilant, because I thought people would, I was hoping people would read my mind, is what I really realized I was doing. And now that I realize that, we went out to dinner last night, and I said, I need your help. And so if I choose something that has dairy or bread or grains or anything like that, I'll be sick if I eat that. So if you can help me, here's what I'd like. And he said, okay, so, and I forgot. And he said, so you don't want a tortilla then? I said, oh, thanks. So I set it up ahead of time, and it's just really easy. For me to integrate Dr. Gallo's program, I would say it took me 2 months. And part of that was my own questioning, and part of it was my own not being vigilant. And but after the 2 months, it's the easiest thing I can do right now. The hardest part for me to get started in Dr. Gallo's program was the taste buds were fighting me. I mean, I was really addicted to, where's that grease? Where's that ice cream? Where's that? Well, but, and so that was like my first couple weeks were really tough. And then one day I said, you know what? I was an ice cream addict. And that was the first thing I said, goodbye. And it was easy. And once I did that, then everything else started to join that force of being a little bit easier, a little bit easier. And, it was an interesting progression. Eating out is simple. There's certain restaurants that are very difficult. I've come to learn that Asian restaurants are very difficult. Everything is, there's a lot of soy and other things in their food that's really hard. Although you can go and say, can I get vegetables and some chicken? And they look at you funny when you say, I really don't like it. You can hold back the rice and that kind of stuff. So you get a little interesting interactions at times, but it makes me think I just put a seed there. There's just a seed. I'm not going to come back and water it or anything. I just got a seed. And if you see me again, I'm going to order pretty much the same thing. There's another seed. I haven't had the opportunity to see my doctor. I'm really looking forward to my next physical, because I was barely on it a month, on Dr. Gallo's program a month when I had my last physical, and he was amazed. He kicked himself away from the chair and said, I don't know what you're doing, but I don't want you to stop, and I don't have many patients that are doing what you're doing. And by that time I'd lost 30 pounds, and so I was 182. I'm 152 now. And I lost 30 pounds, and he says, your triglycerides, and he's a vegan, and your triglycerides are lower than mine, and everything else is really well. He said, you got a couple of issues I want to talk to you about, but he said, compared to last year's results, you're a totally different person. And I said, you want to hear what I'm doing? And he said, well, of course I want to hear what you're doing. I said, I've seen Dr. Gallo, and I've gone on the paleo diet. I'm just getting started, but your interaction with me is making me more excited. So that's how that was. So I'm really looking forward to my next physical about 6 months from now. Dr. Gallo's program has given me a totally new outlook on life. I'm going to live to 100 plus. There's no doubt in my mind. I was going to live till 62 before. That's an amazing change in just a few months, to have such a mindset that, I'm looking forward to going back to a physical lifestyle. I'm loving reading again, and being very active till late at night, and get up refreshed. I look forward to spending time with people. I have none of this depression. I don't watch TV ever. When I was not feeling very well, I'd watch a few hours of TV every day. I don't have time for TV. I don't have time for anything that's not really like life-generating to me and stimulating. And that's an extremely change of attitude, and in such a short period of time. My family's worried that I've lost too much weight, and I said, well, you want to go for a run? You want to see how bad a shape I am? And they're like, no. So, there's a variety of opinions about my changes. At the last Sweat Lodge last Friday, one of the elders who was in some physical issues and way overweight came up to me and asked me, and he said, so are you okay with all this weight loss? And he's our medicine man, basically. And I said, yeah, why? What do you mean? He says, well, what's your energy like? How do you feel overall? You look totally, you're completely different. I think he used the word completely different. And I said, I couldn't tell you the last time I really felt this way. It was back in my 40s. I said, it's what your ancestors ate. And I've been telling them all, this is what your ancestors ate. This is where the trouble is here with our culture. You're not eating what your ancestors ate. And he said, I need to talk to you more about that. And I said, so, okay, let's talk a little bit now. We had a few minutes before the lodge. And so I went over. It's no dairy. It's no potatoes and no legumes and no beans. And I said, no sugars, a little honey once in a while. And he said, yeah, I need to lose weight. My hips kill me. And I said, you know what? Remember my knee? He said, yeah. I said, I'm not having knee surgery anymore. Remember I used to have an inhaler? He didn't remember that. He said, I don't have an inhaler. I run now. I said, I can go over a whole bunch of stuff that I'm doing now, and it's because the food I'm on is the medicine I take. And he was very excited. First off, people I haven't seen for a while, they say you're 10 years or more younger, just in my facial looks and things like that. And in fact, one guy that I was coming to the lodge looked right at me and walked right by and went about 3 steps, and he turned around and he said, is that Rick? And I go, yeah, that's Rick. He goes, holy cow, you're really different. This is like when you were much younger. And he knew me 20 years ago. So that was, an affirmation of how much I've changed to the better. Before I started this plan, since June of 2012 to February of this year, 2015, I'd lost 30 pounds. So that's over 2.5 years. Since I really got on the Dr. Galla's diet and supplements, I've lost another 30 in basically 3 or 4 months. Well, right before I retired, I was wearing 36 stretchy dress pants, and they were stretched to the max. And now I'm in 31 slims. I've never been in a slim since I was running in my 40s. 31 slims, and they're not tight. I'll be 61 in 3 weeks, and I actually feel like I need to be careful because I feel like I'm in my 40s, and you can overdo anything. And so my body is not ready for my mind at this point. And so we're working together here to try to get caught up. The biggest single improvement, my total energy is just expansive now. And so is that a single improvement? I'm not sure. But I don't know. I don't know how to say one's better than the other. I can breathe. I couldn't breathe before. My heart was skipping all over the place. It's solid. I have no pains. The single biggest thing since I've started this, I guess let's look at it this way, or let me look at it this way. The single biggest thing is I can breathe. That'd be the first thing to kill you if you couldn't breathe. So I can breathe now. And who ever heard of anybody getting off of asthma? I've never heard it. For those who are suffering from all kinds of diseases, neurological, which were my arms and hands, musculoskeletal, my knee, lung function, my asthma, cardiac function, my atrial fib, I would sit down and say, you have inside you the ability to be totally different. You have this skill, and here's a plan already done for you. You don't have to work to figure this out. You have to work to change. And that's all that's going to be asked of you if you really want to be different. Do you want to change? The part of Dr. Galla's program that I believe helped me the most was the kind way that these were suggestions and experiences that backed up changes. Nobody demanded. Nobody said, you've got to. Nobody was forceful about it. Everything was encouraging. It was up to me, every step. Whether I wanted to succeed or fail, it was up to me. It was up to my decision. For me, as I look back, that was the most important thing because it let me sit there and make my own choices. And it let me, and then as I started feeling something change, that was my impetus to go further and ask further questions. The hardest part of following Dr. Galla's program was the complete mindset change of what we've been indoctrinated to. We've been indoctrinated that this commercial here says this is good for you. The Surgeon General says this is good for you. Don't have too many, but these are good for you. Our whole culture is based on a premise that you're supposed to eat corn or have all corn sugar and all this other things in your stuff. I mean, just many things like that. That's the hardest part, is the mindset that we're indoctrinated with. And it's just a mindset. If Dr. Gallo was here today, I'd do exactly what I'm doing. Because this is, I was going to die before I got on this program. Everything was failing. I was recovering a little, but very slow. And I really didn't have a really good outlook on life. I just look at him and say, thanks for giving me my life back. Thanks for all your work, Dr. Gallo. 2 or 3 words is not enough to describe Dr. Gallo's mom, or as I know her better as Melanie. But I would always want to say, eager for life, vivacious in life, loving life, looking forward to what life brings her. It is amazing to be in her presence. The way I would describe Dr. Gallo is a very intense, intellectual human being who comes into this arena with a pureness, driven by a pureness to help others. I too am very grateful to have met him and to be in his presence the few times I am. I thoroughly enjoy engaging in discussion with Dr. Gallo. I went to the Longevity Summit. Melanie was talking to me about it, and I was planning to go, and then my mother was visiting, and it was really a big impetus because my mom's not in very good health. And so I talked to my mom the night before, and I was able to take her to that. And to listen to Melanie's life story, to see Dr. Gallo interact, and to see the presenters, and to even know a couple of them in other walks, was very exciting for me. And the biggest thing I think I took back from that Longevity Summit is my mom's discussion since there and her changes. And she's doing this on her own. I bought her the book, the cookbook. She loves to cook. Well, of course, first off, she wanted to change all the recipes. And then, so they didn't taste very good. And so as a family member, and she lives with my sister and cooks for them. And so as the families were saying, this is really good, Mom, but I don't want any more. She's learned to go back to that, and she's lost about 20 pounds, and she's sleeping when she hasn't been sleeping. So that is a really good thing to take away from that, to see your mother change. The overall material was really well put together very well at the Longevity Summit. I really thought that there was a great deal of planning. The speakers were engaged in providing health, giving you what they knew for you to be healthier. And that was nice. They weren't just up there to talk about themselves. And so I thought, you just don't pick people. You search out people like that. That's hard to do. And so I thought that was a really well planned. I walked away from that going, that was one of the better. I've been to a ton of seminars and things because of my work. And that was one of the best ones I ever was at, I'll be quite honest. I'm totally excited to see where I go. Start looking at, I'm dancing in my 90s, dancing in my 100s. Pretty jazzed right now, to be honest with you. I'm pretty jazzed about everything that's taken place. I mean, if I did this in 3 months, and I can't wait till July 4th and run next year. My mind is already set on a time to better. And so we'll see. Maybe I'll be doing a 10K by then. That'd be awesome.